know a lot about the Kansas State School for the Blind, but it's been in our community for decades after decades. My wife works there, provides, the Kansas State School for the Blind provides services not just to people in Wyandotte County, but across the state. They've been integral for helping districts that don't have vision teachers in them to provide services to those students. So think of a kid in Holton, Kansas. Well, Holton doesn't have a blind and visually impaired department in their district. It's a small district. So that's when Kansas State School for the Blind steps in and provides them with what they need. I'll let John talk more specifically.
You're doing great. Just give him a microphone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but without any further ado, John Harding.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow, I tell you. Thank you for the introduction. I want to thank Melissa, Fairfax Industrial Association, Beverly, thank you, and then of course Reardon Pallet. I had a chance to go down, I don't know, a few months ago. I don't remember when it was, maybe a year ago now. Kind of blew me away. You know, you don't know what you know. I drive by there a lot, never pull in, so I had a chance to see it and duly impressed. Great operation. I love listening to all this, the comments, the people, the stories. I'm not from Kansas City, Kansas. I grew up in Nebraska in a very small town. I've been in Kansas communities almost 30 years now. I've lived in the Kansas City area about 25 years. I am the superintendent of the School for the Blind, 1100 State Avenue, and I love history. I'm a former history teacher, so all these stories that you have about history is kind of a theme today. If nothing else, you'll hopefully see some good history photos and some stories about our history. But congratulations to you for a successful event. Sounds like I missed it in October. Next year I'll put it on my, is it annual, I assume? Yeah. So I'm an optimist about KCK. I've been at the school 8 years, and we're on a hill. And almost every morning I get up and I look east, and I look over Big 11 Lake, I look over downtown KCK, and all the way to downtown KC-Mo. And I'm an optimist about what I see, and I love hearing the history of KCK and the things that are happening here. And hopefully we can be a part of that. I do have some PowerPoint slides in our industry. It's called Death by PowerPoint. I'll try to avoid that today. But this is our school. We've been here since 1867, so we're older than the city of Wyandotte, of KCK itself. A few years, Mayor Holland came out for a 150th. He said, "You guys are older than we are." So we've been there a minute. We were actually on ground that was owned originally by the Wyandotte Nation of Kansas tribe. They're a state-recognized tribe. It's not federally recognized, but if you've ever been to the Huron Cemetery downtown next to the casino is owned by the Wyandotte tribe of Oklahoma. The cemetery is owned by the Wyandotte Nation of Kansas. It's beautiful up there, and their ancestors and their members of their tribe owned our property. They deeded that to the city, and then it passed on to the state of Kansas. Really to be used to educate children who are blind. The story that I've read and it's been told to me is that when the tribe was moved forcibly from Ohio and Ontario, what is now Ontario, Canada, some of the children and the adults contracted rubella and lost their sight. And so for that reason, they wanted that land to be used for the purpose of educating children who are blind. So a great gift, and for our 150th, again, that's a photo from this morning, so I think that's the prettiest spot in Wyandotte County as far as I'm concerned. I know there's some beautiful parts of Wyandotte, but that's what I get to wake up to most mornings. I found a quote again this morning from Hubert Humphrey. It said, "The moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, and those who are in the shadow of life, the sick, needy, and the handicapped." That was in 1977, he said that. And I think, by all accounts, the state of Kansas has done really quite well. We're very grateful for the support that we've received for really 154 years. We get our funding mostly from the state. We do have some federal funds that come our way for special projects. But we've really tried to change our outlook and to become almost a nonprofit in the sense that we reach out to our community for partnerships. We don't just rely on the state. We're grateful for that, tremendous support, but we really try to partner with others to say, Will you help us buy into our mission? This was happened to be a picture a few weeks ago. The Downtown Lions of KCK donated a bench. They collected 500 pounds of plastic and donated a bench to us. So we took a quick photo. I climbed on the golf cart and took a quick photo. What do? We serve children birth to 21. And so we're in the business, if you will, of education. That's really what we do. Some of you have heard of Alpha Point here in Kansas City, a little bit different focus. And there are friends over at Alpha Point, but they're a little bit different focus. Mostly a lot of adult services over there. We focus on students in Kansas birth to 21. We do serve a few kids from Missouri. We contract, but they pay tuition to come to our school. Students who come to our school from Kansas really come there free of charge. There's no cost for that. And so that's really what we do. And the numbers I put up always when I present are 50, 800, and 1,500. So there are 50 students who come and are enrolled in our school every year. Not every year. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. But there are 800 students who we touch every single year through our services, because we're a statewide agency. We're not just serving KCK or the metro area. And then there are 1,500 students in the state minimum who are blind or low vision, significantly enough that it impacts their education. So we know there's a lot of students who are still not getting the services maybe they need. That's our mission, is to do better by those students. Everybody wants to know how do we handle COVID? We're managing it like everybody else. Our kids tend to have more significant disabilities and more medical needs, so we have to be a little bit cautious about that. We did get a grant from KDHE, Department of Health and Environment, so we're able to test students or staff who are considered close contacts. If they test negative every day, they're able to stay on our campus. So that's really helped us stay open, and we have 3 full-time nurses who do that. A little bit about our service areas. Here on the left is just a map how we divide the state. We actually have staff who live in those areas. It's really important to school districts that they know that we understand who they are. If we come out and say, we're from Kansas City, and they're already, that might turn them off. They want to know, do you understand Salina? Do you understand Ulysses, Kansas? Do you understand Oakley? So we have staff who live in these regions and travel in those regions to provide services to schools and children. We're getting better at data. For a state agency, we've come a long way. We have an app that goes on our staff phones, and they can enter data to say where have they been, who did they serve, how many children did they serve, what skills are they building, and then every month I get a report that kind of shows that visually, so I can report back to our stakeholders to say, hey, what are you doing with the money that the state is giving you? Who are you serving? Because legislators want to know that. How are you helping liberal Kansas? Right? You're in KCK. I have to be able to show them that we're serving students in all areas of the state. Again, just some more numbers. Every month, these numbers click up and show us how many we're serving. So we use this data to say, hey, we're doing, we think, a pretty good job. We think we can do even better. I'd like to hire more staff. Teachers come to us and they tell us we like working at the School for the Blind because we're supported in what we do. If they work with a local district, they're kind of the Lone Ranger. They're isolated at times, and they work alone. It can be very lonely for them. So when they work with us, they have a support network for professional development, for networking, and mentoring, coaching, evaluating, all those things. We do partner, as I said, with a lot of agencies. So this is the Hutchinson Library. We had 6 staff out yesterday to say, hey, we're trying to be more accessible to individuals in our communities who are blind or low vision. We'd like to get better at that. They came up and looked at our campus. They looked at our makerspace. They looked at all our facilities and said, how do we get better as an agency, as a library, in being accessible to those who are blind or low vision? So they spent really all day with us yesterday. And that's the kind of fun stuff we get to do. People do come to us and want to get better, whether it's a church, a nonprofit, a for-profit business. They're thinking about how do I be more accessible for all the populations. The state board is who administers our school, so we're funded by the legislature. The State Board of Education is our local board. That's a true blessing because I can talk to the Commissioner of Education every month and report and brag a little bit about our school. Not every school has that luxury. Most local schools have their own local board. We get to go to the state board. It's the same with the School for the Deaf in Olathe. they often confuse us and say, aren't you in Olathe? I said, no, we're in KCK. But both schools are kind of sister schools to each other. We're administered by the State Board of Ed. But they want us to be more visible. Janet Waugh, who's a state board member from this area, and you might know her if you're any Turner High School alumni in here. Janet Waugh was a longtime board member, and she says, you're the best kept secret in Kansas. So we work really hard to change that. We do a lot of on-campus events here. Our orientation mobility specialists are talking about what does the white cane mean? How do we cross streets when you can't see? And what do I do if I'm in the car and I see somebody with a white cane? Am I supposed to wait? Do I go? They're not really sure about that. So we were visiting with the young professionals from KCK Chamber who came out as part of a tour, and we gave a little demonstration. Christian here, Hewitt, is one of our staff who is blind. He's a teacher, and he's a great ambassador for our school. We do a lot of professional development, of course, for schools, teachers in Kansas. We do that nationally, and I got a chance a few months ago to work with a researcher in Japan because their country's going through the same evolution that we did maybe 30 years ago, where the word inclusion is coming up, and the idea that we want students to be in their home schools, their home communities. Well, how is a school for the blind relevant then? Why are you needed at that point? And those are the questions their schools are asking themselves in Japan to say, how do we stay relevant? So this particular researcher, he has studied schools in America, Germany, England, and I had a chance to present to a conference of Japanese teachers. You celebrate as an organization in October. You bring people together to Fairfax. We do the same thing in September on our campus. And so this was a picture of the Boys and Girls Weekend. We do bring students from across the state to come in for weekends and build social skills. They build Braille skills, mobility skills, and we do it around a theme. This theme happened to be sports, so we have a track, and you can see the guide wires on the track. They're not holding it in this case, but for those who are totally blind, they use the guide wires. So it's an opportunity for us to bring in kids who are not familiar with our school to talk about what we do. This is the 5K, the KC Blind All-Stars 5K. We run it September 25th. We had, I believe, 385 registrants this year. It's only our third year of running a 5K. The purpose is of course, to raise money to support our projects, but it's also to celebrate our school and to bring people to downtown KCK. So we run a route that goes by many businesses in downtown. The Chamber is our founding sponsor, and then we reach out to other businesses to support us. It's a wonderful day, and like you, we get lucky. We've been lucky with weather the past few years where it's sunny, cool in the morning, beautiful day. We know that won't always happen, but it's been an evolution for us. When we started, we did a walk that brought in maybe 30 people, and we raised $2,200. This year, we raised $63,000 for a gym. We're trying to improve our gym. And so we'll combine those monies, a public-private partnership, so we can improve our gymnasium. Great day for us, a lot of fun. And it's something maybe we can partner with Fairfax. We'd like to be able to support your activities. You support our activities. It all helps KCK. Just another photo. And again, Reardon Pallet was a sponsor. Thank you for that. Design Mechanical and Neff Packaging Systems, which I think are all members of the Fairfax Industrial Association. Thank you for...
This is Neff Packaging.
Don is
Where?
right there.
There, thank you. Thank you for your support. We appreciate that. The other goals that we have are to expand professional development. We go out a lot, and this is a picture of one of our preschoolers, but we mentor teachers, we do active learning workshops, vision screening workshops. We bring teachers across the state together for meaningful professional development for them, and we try to keep the wheels on our cars moving. This is just another photo of our media center. We do offer this to the community, so Strugglers Hill, a local community group, meets at our campus. They're probably meeting today. I mentioned the downtown KCK Lions Club. They use our facilities, so we always welcome guests. But this was an example of experienced teachers working with inexperienced teachers. The history focus for our school, this is probably where the business angle comes in. In 1867, the state said, let's set up a school for the blind. And These things have always been an important part of our school, vocational skills. The state said we want students to be productive. We want them to have jobs if possible. We want them to be independent and empowered. That's always been a part of our school. Yes, academic skills. We want students to have good academic skills, math, reading, language arts. Music and athletics have always been a part of our school, a strong part of our school, even today. I took these photos with my camera on the wall for our 150th. We kind of pulled out our history books and said, what are we going to find? This was a shop class, probably around the turn of the century. Students who were blind or low vision. Not everybody who goes to our school is totally blind. Many of them have limited vision and can see some things. It just depends on each student. But this was a shop class that was held probably around the turn of the century. I'm not sure exactly what they're making there, but you can see some of the sharp tools they're using. Piano tuning was a common vocation for individuals who were blind at that time. So here they're working on some pianos. Even as recent as 5 years ago, we've had students learn this trade. It's not as common today. You have to have transportation to get around, but you will still see some schools teaching piano tuning. It's sort of cyclical based on the economy, of course. This is an interesting photo that we found in our history books. I had a call this about, let's say, 2 months ago on a Saturday morning as I was making breakfast, and it was a professor from Washington University in St. Louis who said, I do research on World's Fairs, and I'm studying the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. He said, I came across some photos you might be interested in, so he sent me the photo. It was a different photo of these same two twins that were standing on a table playing with a piano teacher, a player was accompanying them at the St. Louis World's Fair. Helen Keller was at that fair, and we had sent students on a train from Kansas City to St. Louis to demo their skills. So I don't know as much about these twins as I would like to, but apparently they were pretty renowned for their skills in that day. So you can see music has been an important part. This is the industrial department, and those things hanging from the ceiling, I believe, are what they called horse nets. I don't know if anybody knows what a horse net is, but when they feed horses, they put the hay in the net so they don't have to bend down to eat it. It's right next to their mouth. So they would make those. You see chairs, and so they would cane chairs. It was a skill that would teach students to put the bottom on a chair using a cane technique. And I'm trying to see what else is in that photo. You can see someone with what appears to be a white cane there in the middle. So they were teaching students industrial skills way back when. This is a photo of something dangerous, probably, but it was a teacher and students in the back of a wagon. The carriage house, which is still with us, is in the background. This is not me, but it was a teacher in front of the administration building. So this is, if you read some of the history, they often were generals who were kind of army veterans who would be assigned to manage the school for the blind and report back to the governor. And they would say, we need a new team of horses to haul the coal around. We have tunnels underneath our campus. Even today, we're still heated in some cases by steam heat. So we have boilers that push steam to a couple of our buildings even today. So a lot of fun history. This is what it looks like today. I was talking to somebody who said, I'd like to meet with a historian here who knows a little bit about the history. This is turn of the century, probably 1890s. There's still some rings where they tied up the horses there, and an arch on the other side of the building where you can see they pulled the wagons out of the carriage. So it's probably the second oldest building in Wyandotte. Chester Owen, who's kind of a local historian, told me that. I don't know what the oldest is. Is it Sauer Castle?
Sauer Castle.
So 75% is the rate of unemployment of our population. Adults who are blind, low vision, are unemployed. The rate is 75%. That's a problem for us, and so we take that seriously, and that's kind of what drives our work, to say, how do we increase that, lower that number so more people are employed. We do that on our campus by teaching both skills, hard skills, and soft skills. And you'll hear that debate even today amongst the state board, the legislature. Is it academics that matter? Do kids need to know math and reading and science? They absolutely do. But they also have to have soft skills. They have to be able to introduce themselves. They have to be able to navigate, work as part of teams. And maybe some of you have seen that today as you hire people. What skills do you have? Can you be a part of this team? Do you recognize the culture here? Or do you have very good skills, but you can't do these other things? Can you show up on time? Are you ready to go? Can you adjust when your assignment isn't ready? These are things we try to teach kids. We do send them on 3 pathways. They go to college, KCKCC, or the TEC, which is the Technical Education Center. We now have a project search, so we signed a memorandum of understanding with the University of Kansas Health System. So next year, we will have students working in rotations at the hospital. It's a big deal for us because it gives them an opportunity to work in a community-based setting, not on our campus, or an artificial setting, to learn skills in rotations. And 80% of those students who go through a project search do end up employed. That's a national statistic. So for us, if we can even run 5 students through that program, that's a pretty big deal. The other thing, we have a program just for students who don't want to go to college but just want to build their independent living skills. Again, project search is all over the state. We're the only school for the blind, I believe, currently in the country that has a project search. Some of our partners, the University of Kansas Health System, the Wyandotte County CDDO, Voc Rehab also participates in this project. Some of our students were there working at the Merck in the photo. We do offer computer science for students online, totally accessible. We work with Microsoft Teams, so their engineers are volunteers. They teach our course with our teachers to students across the state. You can build an elevator sometimes, but sometimes people take the stairs, so we don't have enough students that are enrolled in this because they don't know about it. So we have to tell them, this is the kind of program that you need to give your students access to so they can build skills. They use Python as their programming language. We also do online courses in music braille, technology, and of course, computer science. We send students to a space camp, a high-tech space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, where they get to do things like rappel, they get to scuba dive, they get to climb rock walls and do things they have never done before, and it's totally accessible. So each year, we sponsor students from across the state to go to space camp. We've turned our rec building into a makerspace building, and we partner with Greenbush Service Center to push those products and those activities to schools across the state. We have a van that goes out. We're going tomorrow to Iola Elementary School and doing inclusive STEM, so students who are blind, students who are typical, doing activities that can build skills and concepts in science, engineering, math. We have an embroidery machine. We're not really a production facility, don't worry, we're not competing with anybody on making shirts, but we do demonstrate that so students can see, I can do this with a little bit of assistance. We can make these tools accessible so that they can make things, they can dream about things, they can design things, and even sell them. We do sell a little bit on our campus, so our staff buy products. They use that to buy more products for their production. So we have a laser engraver, 2 of them actually. We have 3D printers, sublimation machines. I'm not sure what a poster printer is. Poster is what it's supposed to be. Vinyl cutters, direct-to-garment printers, laptops, and Corel Draw. So everybody's getting involved in this, and we want to continue that effort because there are fabulous career and tech ed programs in high schools across this state. They're amazing. But if you ask them, where are the students with disabilities in those programs, they'll kind of look at you with a blank stare and say, well, they're over in the special ed department. They're not really part of those activities, so we want to expand the great programs that exist for people with disabilities. There are 7.3 million in the United States with disabilities and 26,273 in Kansas. That's 17% of the population. So as you think about employing people, that's 17% that are almost off the table because they don't tend to get opportunities. So there's a lot of them that want to work, it's not just those who are blind, all disabilities, veterans, people that want to work that are left out of the market. So 61 million plus, the employment rate for all disabilities is about 13%. It's much, much higher for those who are blind, but again, a sense of how many we're talking about. The challenges that you might face are shortage of entry-level and skilled workers. And we've heard about the Great Resignation and all the job switching that's happening right now. That's a real challenge for businesses to say, how am I going to keep operations going if people aren't returning to work, or I can't recruit them to work, or they don't show up for work? I had many people say, well, I've had 30 interviews and only 5 have shown up. It's tough. Maybe some of you, hopefully you haven't had that problem, but we have separate systems right now for regular ed students versus special ed students. And there's a large push to promote career and technical education as opposed to sending everybody to a 4-year college. We need to build skills. And we need to honor that. You'll hear the Commissioner of Education say, we need to celebrate those that go for a technical education certificate as much as we celebrate those going to KU. And have parents see that as a valuable course. It's not mutually exclusive. I can get a technical education certificate and still go back to college at some later point. Building a skill is really critical, but we need to get kids with disabilities in that pipeline. And I don't think at present people really understand that if we could do that, it would open up a lot of opportunities for kids who are left out at this point, and probably help businesses along the way who are looking for good employees. There are a lot of government programs set up to support people with disabilities, and this is not a criticism of them at all. They're all needed, and some of them are on the right. Vocational rehabilitation, workforce centers, Ticket to Work, Jobs for Veterans programs, Working Healthy program. And yet, those numbers are still pretty entrenched. We still have a lot of people who are unemployed. So even though these government programs exist, they have not really been successful, at least for our population, in changing those numbers. There are some non-governmental approaches too to say, how do we fix this? And there's some organizations right now that are set up to do this. So Disability In, Darla Wilkerson runs that group, and a lot of businesses say, I want to be more inclusive. I want to make my business more accessible. How do I do that? A company called In Return Strategies, we worked with them. They try to connect business with not individuals, but with representative groups. So if you want to hire somebody who has autism, there's a group that can tell you, here's where you find individuals with autism who want to work. Or those who are deaf or hard of hearing, where would I go to find employees in that category? You got to connect them with groups. So Jim Atwater and In Return Strategies is pretty good. There's something called Prep KC Connector. We met with them last week. They do industry chats. They try to mentor students. So if you have volunteers in your business that want to be a mentor or talk about what they do, it's a hidden world to most students with disabilities. They have no idea how many jobs there are within a particular business or an industry. So if they hear what's available and what skills they need, they can get interested in that. The Builders Association does great things here in the metro area. KCC does really, really good things, and then there are business mentorship programs that exist. So I encourage you to look into those sorts of things. The marketing and talent acquisition, again, not everybody is blind. There are many students with low vision who can do things. When I went to Reardon Pallet, Dan said, wow, maybe we can get a machine at KSSB, train them how to work there, and then bring that skill back here. I love that kind of thinking. That's very creative. I'm not sure a skill saw or a circular saw for our kids is maybe the right place to start, but a great idea. And we need more businesses to think like that, to say, what are we doing here that can be translated, or we can build skills so that I don't have to retrain everybody who comes through the door. We can actually do that and have them work in a community-based business, not in a place where everybody else is blind. We want our students to be integrated in the community. Again, there are some great CTE programs, but not always including students with disabilities. Expanding internships, if you have internships programs or don't have one and have the capacity to do that, it's a great way to bring teachers in, show them what you do, and can they get more students interested in that line of work. If you're interested in accessibility, you say, well, I don't even know what that means. How would a student who's using a cane get around my business? We can come out and help you look at that and give you some suggestions, easy things you can do. It's often fear-based. When we take students out in the community, they see kids with canes, and they kind of step aside. They don't know what to do. How do I introduce myself when they can't see me reaching my hand out? So we try to lower some of those barriers to say, this is how you do it. It's really quite easy. And also your website, is your website accessible for those who are blind? Many of them are not. Even we struggle to keep our website accessible for screen readers, things like that. We can help you find those resources. And then working with third parties to expand your provider network. You may not know where to go, even if you want to hire those with disabilities. How do I get that word out there? Who's going to help me do that? You might want to partner with somebody if you're interested in going that route. It's good for business, so I just do a quick Google search. You can see the Times and Business.com. Hiring people with disabilities is good business. It's 4 reasons why hiring is good for business. It will make your business stronger. It's pretty well established that those with disabilities are good employees. They want to work. They want to show up. They don't tend to have as many personal issues as some of the rest of us. And that could be partly because of their isolation, but when they find something that they like to do, they're going to show up and be reliable, and that's usually good for business. So we think our students are good. These are just some other pictures. We start trying to build skills at the youngest levels. We started a preschool program, and they're doing things that typical kids do, but many of our students who don't have high expectations will come to our school and they've never used the stove. They can pass algebra, but they've never used the stove before. They haven't been allowed to do that. Or they don't even know how to tie their shoes because someone else has done that for them. So we try to build these skills at the youngest levels so that they are challenged and they have the dignity of risk. You have to take some risks in life. We have a cool wayfinding system on our campus. It allows those who are blind or low vision to find their way around using a low energy Bluetooth beacon that connects to an iPhone. So it's very high tech. We're the only school in the country that has that. It also has tactile maps. If you just want to do a general overview, say, I'm going from the gym to the library, how do I get there? We have 3 nice tactile maps. Not every school has that. So we try to be best practice, and we want our kids, when they go out just to KU or the community college, to say, where is your tactile map? I'd like to get around here by myself and not have to rely on somebody else. So we encourage that. We have White Cane Day celebration. Again, it's an opportunity for our students to tell what that means to them, how it keeps them safe, how to interact with somebody who uses a cane. Whether you're a driver or you're a pedestrian, you want to know what that means and how much empowerment that is for students who use that. It's independence for them, really. It's dignity. They don't have to be guided around by somebody else when they have good cane skills. Some students, most of our students will use a cane, not all of them. And most adults will use a cane, but some use a guide dog. You've probably seen people with guide dogs. They will not give you a guide dog until you're good with your cane. That's like a prerequisite. Because if your dog is not with you, then you're stuck. So we tell kids, if you want a dog, you better get really good with your cane skills. And that's kind of a motivator for many of them to use their cane. We do social emotional learning. It's a big thing you'll hear in schools these days. So it's the soft skills again. We're trying to upgrade our campus. If you come, you'll see a new walkway that we're installing. So we do work with a lot of companies who are design companies, architects, mechanical design contractors who work with the state. We're a state agency. They have to be part of that system. But we're trying to raise money for a new gym. The playground we installed was new last year. Private-public partnership. Again, we raised some money on the private side. So we have a nice, beautiful new playground for our students. Some of the activities we have coming up. So we're year-round. We're on campus really 11 months out of the year. We have students on our campus. July is the only month that we don't have students come. But I'm just going to close. Otherwise, I'll get death by PowerPoint here. So I will just say to you that if you're interested in accessibility, if you're interested in employing people with disabilities, I encourage you to just take that first step. Reach out to partners. If you are interested in our campus, if you live in Kansas, this is your campus too. It's not just our campus. And I welcome people to come in. We try to balance safety and security with being welcome. So we think we're managing that pretty well. We want people to come in, check us out. We're on the hill. Many Wyandotte County residents say, well, I've lived here 70 years, but I never knew what was up here. I've driven by it a million times, but I can't see it because it's on a hill. So we encourage them to come in. We encourage you to come in. And if you're interested in moving into that accessibility space, making your business more accessible, we'd love to help you out with that. So I'll just pause right now. Thank you again. Thank you, Reardon Pallet, for the opportunity. Thank you, FIA. Are there any questions? Yes, Joe.
My Kiwanis Club met there about 25 years ago. We actually met there and were able to have a presentation and a tour. Is that something that's,
Always.
I'd love to have them come back.
How many members do you have?
Usually, we have about 45 members, but usually about 20 to 25.
We'd love to host you. Come up and use our facilities. We'll give you parking and welcome you and show you around. I give tours really all the time. It's like a Navy ship almost. If you've been, I don't know what branch of the service you were in.
Air Force.
Yeah, sorry.
But I went to Japan on a troop.
We have a low vision clinic. Still have doctors and dentists who come to our school. We have a dormitory. We have a school. We have a preschool. We have all these different buildings, and we love to show them off. So I give a lot of tours. We'd love to host you. Just I have a card here. I'll give you at the end of this. Yes.
Does every state have a school like this?
Great
How
question.
many are there?
Great question. I'm a part of an organization called the Council of Schools for the Blind. So it's kind of like your trade industry association for schools for the blind. There are still about 40 states that have a school for the blind. Some of them are combined with schools for the deaf, and some of them have gone strictly to outreach. They don't really have a residential. We pulled off a minor miracle for a small state. We have a very robust campus, very active, and then we have a great outreach team. Daniel mentioned his wife works for us. She does some outreach for us. So we push our services across the state. We've been able to balance that, and I think really pull off a bit of a miracle to keep that going, because it's not easy to do that. But there are still schools for the blind that meet. I'm on the board. I'm the treasurer of that organization, and we are growing and working together. But every state is different, of course, and so they're administered differently. We're blessed, again, to be supported by the legislature and then administered by the State Board of Ed. And I learned very quickly it's a great opportunity. That is not a disadvantage at all, because I can brag about our kids and our employees to people that really do care and can help us in our mission. So great question. Any other questions?
I just have a comment. My neighbor, her daughter, she's in her late 20s and she was born blind, and she has a full-time job. She works at a large trucking company and she sets appointments.
Awesome.
And loves her job. She lives on her own.
And if anybody has, I have a student right now. This morning, actually, he came out of the room and he was singing. He didn't realize I was there, and I said, "What are you singing?" And he said, he told me, Hank Williams. I said, I'm not sure I want to know which Hank Williams song he was singing, but he was singing Hank Williams. He's a student who is incredibly gifted with technology. He started off on the wrong path, actually, when he was in 4th grade with us. And I won't mention his name, of course, but I would get calls from North Carolina, and they'd say, "Do you have a student named so-and-so?" I said, "Yes." And they would say, "He just erased my son's iPad and locked it up." And I'd say, "Oh, okay, sorry to hear that." And so he would do this because he was very curious and very talented. And so we worried about him a lot. But now we've got him on the right track doing productive things. He is quite gifted with technology and wants to pursue networking, IT. So he's going to college next year, KCC, but he's already ready for some internships. He's working with our IT staff on switches, servers, coding, getting some experience. And I'm always looking for ways to celebrate. He would love a community-based internship next year as he goes through college. So we have some incredibly bright students. We do partner with Bishop Ward. We send students when they get so bright that even we struggle to give them the advanced placement courses. We'll send them to Ward, and they take classes over there. So we freely admit we can't do everything. We want students to stay in their home school, in their home district if possible. But there are times and places where a pit stop is needed. You come up to our school, you build your skills, and then you go back into the world. So I love those stories. And if anybody has...
Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And she loves her job.
Awesome.
I mean, she's probably the most reliable, shows up every day.
It's going to impact us because your parents, yourself, macular degeneration, as we get older, we tend to lose our sight. Unfortunately, in this state, services for the adults are not so great. back in I think it was 2009 that Governor Sebelius established a closure commission. They looked at our school, the School for the Deaf. Ultimately, they left us open, and they closed something called the Rehab Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired, which was in Topeka, and it provided rehab services for adults who are blind. People call and will say, my mom is losing her vision. She wants to stay in her home. She can no longer drive, but she likes to read, but struggling with that, having trouble reading labels on food, needs to build some skills. Where do I go? There's only a couple places to go right now. One is Envision in Wichita and Alpha Point in Missouri. But when you live in, let's say, Russell, Kansas, that's a long way away. So we try to get all the skills they can before they leave schools, because at that point it becomes a little bit difficult. So anyway, thank you. Any other questions before I go? Yes?
Transportation, so are most of the jobs that they find on the bus line, or is there grant or money for transportation?
That's the real challenge. If you're not in Kansas City or Topeka or Lawrence or Wichita, we have students who come from Geneseo, Kansas, for instance. There's no transportation in Geneseo.
I was wondering about
And so many of them, when they come to our school, they'll say, I want to live here, because they can work and live on a bus line. That makes it much easier. Many of our students use Uber and Lyft, but it's expensive, right? So if you have a disability and you rely on public transportation, you start to look critically at cities that have good public transport bus systems, right? Light rail. We love the light rail for kids who want to stay here in Kansas City, but you're not going to have a light rail, right, in Wamego. So it's a great question, and transportation is a problem often. They rely on coworkers or family members to transport them, which is usually what the rest of us do. Good question. Any other? Thank you again for your time. Congratulations to FIA. You're doing great things. We'd love to partner with you as an organization or as individual businesses if you have ideas. I'll leave some cards up here, Melissa. Thank you for your time. I wish you the best. Thank you.